Every cancer journey is different.
It could be your mother, your brother, a friend you grew up with, or even a neighbor.
Each journey comes with fear, but also bravery and a hope that refuses to fade.
Cancer care is more than hospitals. It is early testing, a listening ear, compassion, and ensuring care doesn't feel out of reach.
Today, we stand with every Nigerian affected by cancer. The fighters, the survivors, and the families who keep caring and believing.
Every cancer journey is different.
It could be your mother, your brother, a friend you grew up with, or even a neighbor.
Each journey comes with fear, but also bravery and a hope that refuses to fade.
Cancer care is more than hospitals. It is early testing, a listening ear, compassion, and ensuring care doesn't feel out of reach.
Today, we stand with every Nigerian affected by cancer. The fighters, the survivors, and the families who keep caring and believing.
Nice. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining early. My name is Joseph Ogunbanwo, and I will be your host for today. Um, just to get quickly into why we're here, it is World Cancer Day, and we're here not only to raise awareness, but to give key details on the important information that people need to know at every point in time in their lives, whether they're fighting cancer at the moment or they know someone who is fighting cancer or know someone who knows someone who is fighting cancer. So thank you very much, everyone, and welcome. We have our panelists here today, but before I introduce them, I just want to give 3 more minutes so more people can join. We have over 100 people now, but I believe that there can be more. So tell your friend to tell a friend that it is time to learn. Thank you very much. All right. So I'm sorry about that. Welcome again, everyone. Please can you confirm you can see me and you can hear me? You can just leave a thumbs up. Just to confirm that you can see me. All right. Thank you, Tarila. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to introduce our panelists now. Again, my name is, for those of us who are just joining, my name is Joseph Ogunbanwo. I work with the marketing team at AXA Mansard, and I'm going to be your host for today. I have three wonderful doctors here with me today, and we're going to be having this beautiful conversation on things to prevent and things to know about cancer. Again, like I had mentioned, cancer is not just about, this meeting is not just about raising awareness, but about teaching on what is important for everybody to know, whether you have this illness or not. So first here, I have Dr. Jadisola Idowu. She is the COO of AXA Mansard Health. Dr. Jadisola is a medical doctor, of course, from her name, and she has a vast experience in the field. This is someone who attends to patients, who has attended to patients of different kinds over the course of her career. So please just give me a round of applause. I'm not seeing hands, so please give a round of applause for Dr. Jadisola Idowu. Thank you very much. Another doctor that we have here today is Dr. Titilope McFadden Laja. I don't know if the pronunciation is right, but Dr. Titilope is our head of provider network in AXA Mansard Health. And she's also someone who deals with not just patients, but also our providers. So every hospital you go to under the AXA Mansard HMO, Dr. Titi manages it. So all of this is possible, your treatment and all of that is possible because of her. So please give her a wonderful round of applause. And then we have Dr. Oladimiji Olufemi. That is our resident doctor at One Health by AXA. Now, he's the one that handles all of our care. He oversees all the care at One Health. So if you've ever been to One Health and you enjoyed the service, we thank Dr. Oladimiji. So thank you, Dr. Oladimiji, and welcome to this webinar. And I want every single person here to give themselves a wonderful round of applause, please. Thank you for joining. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join this webinar. So give yourselves a round of applause. And so we begin. So I'd like our panelists to please turn on their cameras so everybody can see them, and then we can now begin this conversation. All right. Thank you, Dr. Ladimiji. Thank you, Dr. Jai. Thank you, Dr. Titi. Okay, so my first question here is for Dr. Oladimiji, right? And I want you to speak from, speaking from the medical standpoint, right? So I want you to tell us, why is early cancer testing so important? And what do people risk when they delay this testing? Why is it so important for everybody? And what do people risk when they delay their testing or when they don't test at all? Doctor, you're muted. We can't.
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon,
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Joseph.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you for the question. It's a good innovation that you're talking about. Cancer. Today is World Cancer Day, so it's good you're talking about this. And I would want to say it is very crucial and it's very important that testing is very key. Early testing is the key. I'm sure that everybody is familiar with the word prevention better than cure. We know that the earlier you catch it, the likelihood you get the best treatment option, the likelihood that you will survive from the cancer, the likelihood that you then get many alternatives for treatment. So it is very key that screening is done as early as possible. In fact, it's recommended that you should do screening as early, as young as, depending on the age group, depending on the risk factor you have, you should seek advice from your medical doctor so that you could get the best out of it and get early screening. Screening cannot be overemphasized that you have to do it, because once you screen early, you're able to have alternatives to treatment. You're able to have quick intervention to be carried on you so that you can get better quickly. And your survival rate and your quality of life is greatly improved. So it cannot be emphasized that you should early screening is very key and very important for every one of us to do. I think that's what I would have to say about that. So it's key that we do early screening because one, first of all, increases your survival rate if you even have the cancer. It also gives you options of different treatment modalities for the cancer. And your quality of life is also improved, which is the third one. So that's very, very key. So it's very key that early screening is done for everyone.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you very much for speaking to that. And then that was from the medical perspective, right? So we're going to go to the wellness perspective now. And I'm going to ask Dr. Jadi Sola. Dr. Jadi, so the fear of cancer testing, right? A lot of people believe that it's more emotional rather than factual. So from your experience in the field, in the medical field, right, what usually lies at the root of this fear? Is it true that this fear is emotional? Or is it true that it is factual? Are people justified for fearing this testing of cancer? Not even just disease, but going for this test. Are people justified for having that much fear? Dr. Jadi, I think you're muted still.
Yes, I say thank you for that question, Joseph, and good afternoon to all our viewers. So, is it rather emotional than factual? Yes, it is, but the truth of the matter is that it's actually the fear of the unknown. So basically, people are afraid. And there's this popular saying that what you don't know, I mean, they actually prevent the evil day. Now, today is World Cancer Day, and all of us must be aware that the essence of having a World Health Day like this to celebrate or talk about cancer is to create the awareness. And the theme for this year, which I also need to mention to us, is United by Unique. And that tells about the stories of people at the center of this cancer care. We have many cancer centers all over Lagos. These people were picked up at different stages of the development of the cancer, from stage 1 to stage 4. And those picked up earlier from that stage 1 have better prognosis, which is why the essence of education comes in, and this awareness. United by Unique is to tell us the same story, that it's more than a diagnosis. It involves your mental health, it involves your family life, it involves your finances, it involves everything about you, which is why we must all do it together and get everyone that needs care to get it on time. And I will quickly share 2 stories of 2 people that had different outcomes because of the testing and when it was done. I remember the first case I had when I started my career in 2007 with AXA Community Health Plan. The woman had cervical cancer, and of course she didn't know. And what was the presentation? She was just having foul-smelling discharge from the private part. And of course she went to all the Lagos, what do they call them, Alagbo people. And she still didn't get better. When we started our program with the market women in Lagos, she was enrolled, and then I remember meeting her for the first time. She was actually smelling. Now we picked her up, and guess what? She was at stage 4. As in, everything has spread to her rectum to everywhere from the cervix. That was stage 4. We gave her the best treatment because this was a donor-funded program by the government of Netherlands. She had all the radiotherapy, everything, but she still died. Despite the money we spent on her, over 6 million then, which was a lot in 2007, compared to another woman who is a survivor today, that goes for annual screening, and then they pick up a lump and they remove the lump and they do a histology and they say, oh, this is stage 1. And then she has a mastectomy, they remove the breast, she does everything. And today she's alive. So that fear of the unknown that people are afraid of, which is more emotional, it's better you get to the roots of it and find out what it is than postpone the evil day and then it has spread to stage 4 and then the person has a worse prognosis and they don't live again. I'll just stop there for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Jadi. And thank you for giving us that example. It's very touching, but still, I think that a lot of people would be able to learn from that. Still speaking on fear, Dr. Oladimeji. A lot of people also believe rather that these cancer tests can be very painful, right? Or harmful. Some people believe it's harmful. How accurate is this? Do these tests actually come with pain, or does it depend on what you're testing for and at the time that you're testing for it?
Thank you for the question, Sir Joseph. So I would say I think it's a common misconception about that. Most of the tests are the basic tests you do if you come to the hospital for if you have malaria, you come to the hospital for a blood work. It's the same blood work they will take if you are. So for instance, I would say in Nigeria at the moment, the three most common cancer is one, breast cancer, prostate cancer, and colorectal cancer. Those are the top three cancers in Nigeria for both sex. For males, we say it's prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, and liver cancer. But for females, we say breast, cervix, and colorectal cancer. At least those three, so I can say in particular for all in Nigeria, the top four is breast cancer, cervical cancer, prostate cancer, and colorectal. Those are the top four cancers in Nigeria. There are tests for them, and those tests are not very discomforting. They are the basic tests you would do that you would to come to do a blood work. So for instance, I would say, for example, if you are doing for instance, breast cancer, the one that is very popular, mammogram. People say they don't want to do mammogram, that it is very painful. It is not that painful. It may be a little bit discomforting. In fact, the new mammograms they are making now, that's why there are a lot of advances in technology. The new mammogram they're making now is not as painful as the one they used to make before. So mammogram is not as painful as you think it is. It saves you the problem of going to do chemo, of going to do a mastectomy surgery, of going to doing radiotherapy. It's better you know and do the test. The pain you go through when you are taking all those chemo, when you are taking your radiation, is more than the test just to do a single test, which is minimal radiation. Within 5-10 minutes, you are done with the procedure. So I think it is a very common misconception. For instance, if you are doing a colon cancer, colorectal cancer screening, they can start with just taking your stool sample. I'm sure everybody goes to the toilet every day to poop. It's just take your stool sample. But if this stool sample now turns out positive or there's something there, then he will tell you, okay, maybe you should do a colonoscopy. But for instance, colonoscopy is done easily any day. Most times, if you're going to do the procedure, they're going to make sure you are well sedated. You're not you're not awake to even feel the pain. So it's a short process. Within 15-30 minutes, you're done with the procedure. And so I think it's a very common misconception for people to say the procedure is painful and harmful. And the beauty is that when you're even doing the procedure, the doctor would explain to you, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. And you'll be shocked that it's just 15-30 minutes, you're done with the procedure. For instance, if you are doing, for example, for prostate cancer also, which just involves you taking a simple blood sample. They could take blood sample from your body, and that's all. Within 5 minutes, you take the samples. They tell you if the result is abnormal, and if there's need for you to do further screening, they will tell you what to do. If it's either you have to do in fact, digital rectal used to be one of the testing for prostate cancer, but they removed that. There are other tests you can do. There are prostate MRI that you can do that it's less invasive. It's just for you to be under the machine. So those are things people need to be enlightened about. That simple tests, just like you do when you come to the hospital, are the tests you will do if you are also screening for cancer. So everybody should be comfortable and be aware and be ready to do this test, because it is as good as the pain you would experience when you are going through chemotherapy, when you are going through radiotherapy, when you are going through surgery. You can't compare to the pain you would do just by taking a blood sample, just by going through a small procedure. So I think it's a common misconception. But so I would encourage everyone to get the information and just get tested, get screened as quick as possible. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Again, just before I continue, we're going to be taking questions after the session. So please let's note our questions down. So there's going to be a Q&A session, and everybody's going to have enough time to ask as many questions as they need. All right. So now I want to go to Dr. Titi. Hi, Dr. Titi. One of the other fears that people have when it comes to cancer testing, right, are the financial implications that come with it. Not everybody can afford everything, right? So what types of cancer screenings are commonly covered by health insurance? What types of cancer screenings are commonly covered by health insurance?
All right,
Anything else,
thank you,
Dr.
Joseph.
Thank you.
So I'm glad that Dr. Oladimeji has mentioned the 4 most common cancers in Nigeria. And the good news is that, in fact, worldwide, actually, the good news is that all these 4 cancers actually are part of the cancers that are easily tested. So if you, under the health insurance plan, depending on the plans you buy or you enroll on, and that's why I will encourage people to get very good plans. Whenever I is a pitch or try, people say I preach health insurance. I'm actually a health insurance advocate besides what I do with AXA Mansard. My face lights up when I begin to talk to people about health insurance because I've seen how much health insurance has saved people. One of the many fears people have is the fear of the cost. When people hear those tests, when they hear mammogram, they hear MRI, they hear chemo, what they are hearing at the back of their mind is money. And in a country where a lot of these things are not fully funded, look at the example Dr. Jade gave. A woman that presented at that point because the treatment was then free. I'm sure that at the back of her mind, she was the body was lighter. So your health insurance would take the fear of that cost away from you, aside every other fear, the fear of the unknown, the fear of having a cancer, if at all. Your health insurance takes the burden or the fear of the cost away from you. And so when you get on a health insurance plan, as part of your annual health screenings, there are a couple of tests you're able to do free. And these are the things that we encourage that people even go ahead to do. For instance, to detect breast cancer, we're talking about a mammogram or an ultrasound scan. So for a woman above 40 years, take, for instance, on AXA Mansard's plan, for a gold plan upward, you have access to a mammogram or a breast ultrasound. That detects breast cancer early for you. And of course, you don't even do this, you don't need to do this every year, But once you've done it this year, and your results are free, or detect nothing, then you know that you are good to go. And you don't have to do it next year again. That's one of the major cancers that can be detected early by just screening. Of course, if one then does this mammogram and some things are detected, whether a lump that was not even detectable by palpation and all of that, there are other tests the doctors would then recommend you to do. The second most common in women is cervical cancer. A pap smear is covered under your health insurance as part of the screening test. I have done pap smear. I think I did that maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I don't have to do that every year. You probably need to wait for another 4 to 5 years before you repeat it. These are tests that are covered free under your health insurance. This is one of the screening tests for cervical cancer. For prostate cancer, the prostate-specific antigen is also one of the screening tests that is covered for men. So when you have women do mammogram, do the pap smear, then the men are able to do their prostate-specific antigen. And depending on what the result looks like, you can then take it further beyond just the screening to say, okay, I need to do a confirmatory test based on the results of your screenings. We also, other plans also have things like colonoscopy. Colorectal cancer is the 4th leading type of cancer. One of the screening tests is also colonoscopies. We have certain other tests, if part of the screening test we do liver function test, your liver function tests can detect a liver cancer if you have deranged liver enzymes. So there are just a lot of tests, even though we look at those tests, I'm just going for an annual screening. But trust me, it's not just a screening when something is detected, but it becomes a screening and you're free to go when these tests are done and nothing is found. So all of these tests actually are covered by the health insurance. And I can tell you that on AXA Mansard plan, if you're enrolled on a good plan, most, if not all of these screenings are covered and are free.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'm still with you, Dr. Titi. You
Okay.
spoke about your love for health insurance and all. Yeah, you're a preacher of health insurance. So from your experience in this field, from understanding health insurance and all of that, do you think that health insurance empowers people to actually face that fear of cancer testing? Like, okay, if I have the health insurance, the financial fear is gone. But do you think people are still empowered and still bold enough to go and take those tests? Yes, I have access to take this test, but will I go for the test? From your experience, what do you think?
From my experience, I have seen that health insurance enrollees or clients or candidates now actually are more empowered to take the steps. Health insurance enrollees, people covered under the health insurance are more empowered to walk into the hospital. It was, I mean, one of the popular celebrities, or I mean, is a doctor, actually posted recently, and a lot of people forwarded that video to me, that health insurance, the way health insurance enrollees or patients actually walk into the hospital, it's with so much confidence. So that kind of confidence does not come when you're thinking of cost. Because people are covered, they are able to make informed decision. They know that these things are covered and they don't have to worry about money. Money is not truly the problem. It might not be a problem of awareness. It might be a problem of time. And that's why we will enjoin HRs, to partner with the health insurance companies to ensure that, at least I, for one, I know in AXA Mansard, there's usually a period that a mail is sent to everyone that you must go ahead to carry out your health screenings. And if we take a poll on this call, how many people had that screening last year? I, that I'm preaching this, I am also guilty. But in all honesty, I have scheduled mine for next week. I mean, it was a discussion we had I had with my line manager to say, okay, because I wasn't able to do this towards the end of last year, because that was the plan. The year got busy, but I scheduled it for early in the year. January was also busy, but next week I already took some days off because I need to go and run this test. That was even before the webinar was scheduled, because it's important. When you know that you're not even paying, then what's else will stop one? Maybe it might be a problem of time, but I mean, Dr. Jade has talked about wellness. We have to prioritize our health. So if you do not need to pay, why can't you just walk in? But I also think that it's also a problem of knowledge. If we understand that these things are priority, and then these things will detect this for us, it will help you find this. Even if you don't have it, at least clear it. Let's put our minds at rest. Let's be able to walk in empowered and be able to make informed decisions based on the outcome of this test.
All right. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Thank you. So we're going to leave here now, and then we're going to go back to the wellness perspective. So that's with you, Dr. Jadi. When it comes to cancer, right, how does stress, anxiety, and past experiences affect us when it comes to the disease and when it comes to our willingness to test for this? So I'd like for us to please let's keep our answers a bit short, because I want to give people much time to ask questions, right? I want us to spend more time on the Q&A session than we would here. So let's just try and keep our answers short. So how does stress and anxiety or past experiences, right, affect willingness to go for cancer screening?
Thank you, Joseph, and thank you everyone for being part of this. Stress, anxiety, knowledge affects it in every way. It's known globally that the health-seeking behavior of men generally is very poor all over the world, not just in developing countries or developed countries, everywhere. So people have health insurance and they still don't go for screening. By the way, I'm always glad to motivate my team to tell them I've done mine. And for the first time, I had my colonoscopy done last year in One Health Medical Center. So you can go there. Why is he laughing? You can go there. We have a professor that is very good, and I did not feel any pain. Now, there's criteria for all that. I think it's for older people and all the rest, and if you have a family history. But of course, my mammogram every other thing has been done because I do not have a family history, but I'm not going to wait for any of those symptoms to develop before I go. So please, everyone, it starts with that education. I'll also give you the story of Angelina Jolie, who is a popular celebrity, who has had a double mastectomy. All the two breasts have been removed, not because she even had a cancer, but they saw the BRCA gene, the gene that causes cancer of the breasts. You know, we do a lot of genomic sequencing abroad, and I mean, I hope it will come to Nigeria soon. So they just saw that gene that, this one may develop cancer in the next 5 years. She removed everything. That is the prevention we're talking about. Now, I'm not recommending that, so don't get me wrong. I'm just telling you about the level of education, the level of awareness, and the differences it makes in people. So somebody hears, I have a gene, I have that DNA, and they take off the two breasts, which is actually a wise decision. Another person hears that there's even a lump to remove. They even have an HMO, but because of anxiety, because they heard of one person that died of breast cancer even after chemotherapy, they don't go. So it's about unique experiences, and which is why as medical practitioners, we must even tell our own story and encourage our patients to do the right thing. Because all over us, a lot of wrong information. People on air, all these herbalists treating and telling you they will suck out the germ and the staphylococcus from the thing. They will give you a agbo and herbal concussion and will flush it out. You don't need to go anywhere. We have the right information. So we need to empower people to let them know that cancer, yes, may not have a cure, but early detection saves lives. So those anxiety can be dealt with. Each time I tell my patients, look, even for family planning and every other thing, I've done my own and I want you to do yours. When people see testimonials and they know that it will not kill you, those procedures are not deadly, then hopefully they will do it. But health-seeking behavior needs to be improved across board. Look at even across AXA. When AXA says go and screen, many of us have still not screened, even when it's free, because we think other things are more important. But if we are more empowered to know that, look, if anybody drops dead, that work continues, then we will take that chance to make sure we all screen, because early detections always saves lives. So those anxiety can only be corrected by medical practitioners or healthcare workers like you, even Joseph, to tell your neighbors and let people know that please go and check your prostate. We have told you about the common 4 cancers in men and women in Nigeria. For all the men, cancer of the prostate is number 1. Every man above 40 and even below 40 now should have a cancer, CAP, we call it prostate specific antigen, PSA. Every woman must do a breast scan if you are below 40 or a mammogram above 40. And then the cervical pap smear. Once we do these common ones, I mean, majority of cancers are in that level. Colonic cancer is becoming common with all these junk food people are eating. So even screening for it and doing the annual abdominal scan to rule out any tumor is also important, and we recommend that these days also. But knowledge. Let's kill the myths, all the old white fables and wrong information that people have, that these things can be cured by herbalists or these things don't need to be known. Let us go early and let's all do our screening. So if you're in this call, you have not done your annual screening, please, it's not too late. Make sure you schedule one and join us in AXA to be part of the good story. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Jadi. Thank you so much. All right. So I've been waiting for this particular question because I think it's going to be quite interesting. Dr. Ladimiji, can you help us? What are the most common medical myths about cancer testing that you encounter? Like, what have people said about cancer testing that have made you shake your head or that have made you laugh? You know, what are the most common myths that you've heard about cancer testing?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. So I think one of the commonest is people will always say, I'm fine, I don't have any problem, I don't need to go for cancer screening. And that's like a big myth. How would you say you're fine? The funny thing is that when you have this, when you do the screening early, most cancers, once you don't have any symptom, the cancer may even be there already, you won't know. It's when it has spread that you start having symptoms. So, and when it has spread, it's always difficult to treat. You find it difficult to treat when the cancer has spread, but when you do your screening early, you can get detected and you can have many options for screening. Like Dr. Jai said, you can have options for your chemo, you can have options for your surgery, you can have options for radiation. But once that's spread, your treatment option is limited. Your survival rate is reduced. Your life expectancy is reduced. Your quality of life is also reduced. So what's the point of not getting it screened quickly? And like I said, most times, most cancers, most times for colon, for breast, you don't have symptoms. To look at the example Dr. Yesela gave, the patient that had cervical cancer, she was already having discharge. She's already having symptoms. I'm sure she had been doing pap smear regularly, she would have detected something in that pap smear and should have been able to do early, if it's to do a early hysterectomy or they have to do a loop excision to remove the part of the cervix that was affected, and she would need to go through all the process she's going through. So it is very pertinent that people do their screening as quickly as possible, even without symptoms, because most times when you are symptom-free, you may even have the cancer and you won't know. It's only when you check yourself and you get the test done, that's when you know you have the cancer. So it's important we get screening done. You don't have to wait for any symptom before you get your screening done. Another common myth is people say, I don't have a family history of cancer, so why should I have to check cancer? The sad thing is that a lot of people that don't have a family history of cancer, and yeah, like I'll give an example. This is a personal example. I have a sister-in-law had breast cancer, no history of no family history of breast cancer, and she's the first person to have a breast cancer. So, but it was just detected because she went for a scan. So you can imagine if she had not even gone for a scan, she wouldn't. If she's one of those people that would say, "Oh, I don't have any symptom, I don't have any family history, I don't have to check a breast scan. Why do I have to have?" So this is some of the myths people always say that, "Oh, I don't have a family history. Why do I have to do for cancer?" Some will also say that I'm too young to be screening for cancer. It's so unfortunate that, in fact, I recently saw a 22-year-old lady. She had breast cancer. In fact, she had done mastectomy. Thank God she caught it early. Thank God maybe she went for a routine check. Maybe she felt a breast lump. And lo and behold, they said it was breast cancer she had. But luckily, they were able to do a radical mastectomy for her. Now she's cancer-free. So you can imagine this is very key and very important. Don't think of age. Ask your doctor if your age and your risk factor. When can you do this screening? Just ask them. It's very important because cancer is on the rise now. And the beauty of it is that the survival rate is, because there are new technologies that are developing now, the survival rate is improving. Before, people didn't used to go for testing. People had a lot of myth about doing cancer screening, but people are testing now. So the survival rate is increasing. People are getting better treatment and recovering from the cancer as quick as possible. Another common myth I think people also say is that I don't want to do a mammogram. I get exposed to radiation. And what's the point of going to do a mammogram and they're exposing me to radiation? But the truth of the matter is that even the radiation people get exposed to when they fly, if they're traveling from UK to US or US to Nigeria, is almost the same of what you get exposed to mammogram. If people don't know, you can Google it. The radiation you get exposed to when you do a mammogram, most of the mammograms the radiation is very minimal. And it's the same radiation you get to when you are traveling from Lagos to the United States of America. So what is the point of avoiding this screening when we know that when you screen early, you detect the problems and you can get many treatment options, and you can get your survival rate can increase. So I think those are the common things I know people have talked about, the myths in cancer screening.
All right, thank you. So I want to write on the first point you made about someone feeling healthy and thinking they don't need to go for a test. So if you are feeling healthy and you have no symptoms, at what point or when and why should you still go for that screening? Is there a particular age where you start? Do you maybe once you are 18, you start going for screening, or do you just, so at what point do you just up and say, okay, I'm going for screening?
Luckily, they are age specific for different cancers. Now, if you have a family history of that particular cancer, so I'll give an example. Now, for breast cancer, it's like Dr. Esel is expected that if you have breast cancer, once you are above 40, you should start doing a mammogram. But if you have a family history, for instance, if you had a relative that had cancer at the age of 30, it's best you start screening at that age also. And you don't necessarily have to do mammogram. There are other things you can do. You can do a breast scan. You can even do a breast MRI. There are new alternatives for checking for cancer. For example, for prostate, there's an age. Once you're above 40, you start doing prostate screening. You should do a PSA. Everybody should do a PSA. Once you're above 40, you start doing PSA. Because we expect that at that age, that's where you see most people develop the cancer. So that is when so almost all cancers have their age-specific time. There's a timing. And the best I would say is that people should talk to their healthcare provider and ask them, what test should I do for this? When should I come and do this? Even for cervical cancer, it's done every 3 years. People do pap smear. And the other test, you can do HPV testing also with your pap smear. So these are age-specific. They are age-specific, sorry. And so you'd have to ask your health provider what time you should do this. I can give you for free For cervical cancer, for instance, it's expected that you should start screening by 21, especially if you're already sexually active. You start screening by 21. Everybody should start doing cervical cancer screening by age of 21, and should do it up to the age of 65. It's normally done every 3 years. So these are all the information you can ask your doctors, and they'll give you that information. For colon cancer too, it's often said on the age of 45, you start screening from 45. But if you have a family history, it is often, most times you do the screening earlier than that age. So these are very important for people to get information and know about. And it's also very important that this screening is not just a one-time thing. You have to be doing it continuously, because it's when you do it continuously that you're able to monitor your health. Some people say they've done screening just once and they're not doing it again. But that's not the way it works. You have to do it continuously, and that's the only way you can follow up on your health. So I think those are things that people need to be aware of, and I think information is key. You should always talk about screening early so that you can get better treatment options and get better. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So Dr. Jade, are there any simple wellness practices, that doesn't involve, are there ways to actually prepare yourself? Say, okay, I'm going for screening, I'll put an appointment with the doctor. How can I prepare myself mentally and physically? Like, from the wellness perspective again, how can I prepare myself, to go for this test and, be my best behavior? I'm not running from doctor, I'm not crying and screaming, are there any wellness tips that you can give us? Are there any wellness practices for that?
Thank you, Joseph. Before I say that, HPV vaccine is available, human papilloma virus vaccine. For young girls, the recommendations, international recommendation is that it's for girls that have not had their sexual debut, that have not started having sex, because that HPV virus that is a cause for cervical cancer is sexually transmitted. So if girls, all the young girls from age 9 to 15, that's actually the standard, should be vaccinated. Lagos State has started that. Rotary is also supporting that. I'm saying that so that everyone hearing it, if you have a young girl, please vaccinate now. Now, for women that are already married, they're already having sex, and other people that are sexually active, they can still have the vaccine. But because anybody could have been exposed to HPV virus, the vaccine efficacy is lower in such women. But please, let every girl, that's the only cancer that we know that has a cause and a cure. Once those girls are vaccinated, they will never develop cervical cancer. Now, back to your question. How can we reduce that? The truth of the matter is that there's nothing like education and awareness. So for instance, Joseph or myself, let me not put you on the spot. If I have to go for a wellness screening, and God forbid, if I even felt a lump, is it better for me to get to stage 1, and even if it's a cancer, to discover it and go, or for me not to go and be praying on a prayer mountain or looking for a miracle? No. So because education is key, if we know that whatever it is, let's look for the worst case scenario. I pray I will not have cancer, and I believe God I will not. But what if they see a lump? Should I wait for another 4 years? I've seen people at the last year World Cancer Day seminar and work that we had, somebody had a 6-month window that saved her life. That's because when she did that test, and only God helped her, because she was going to travel to UK for another thing, but something kept telling her, go and do it. When she did it, they said if she had only 6 months to live, it was already like a stage 3, things had spread, and if she had waited for another 6 months, she would have been dead. I remember that woman's story from this cancer center in Ikoyi, and her story was, today she's a survivor. So what I was trying to say, the earlier, the better. And the truth of the matter, how do we define screening? Screening is looking for potentially harmful symptoms and pathogens in potentially healthy looking people that do not seem to have any symptoms. So what I would say is we're all looking okay. But if we screen and do those tests, the breast scan, the mammogram, the PSA, and all the scans, MRI, and then I'm looking healthy, but something is already going wrong inside. So potentially healthy people that look okay, when we do the screening, we cannot pick it up to say, it's actually not like this, so let us start treating. So screening is recommended for everyone, both young and old, young children, older adults. But the other thing I must also say why it's so important is that cancer is increasing. And the reason scientists have said is because of the more frequent screening and awareness that people have. So the incidence and prevalence and the amount of people that are coming down with cancer is more. But the other thing we also know, even from research, is that our lifestyle has changed. That's why a 22-year-old without a family history can have a breast cancer. What are we trying to say? There's a genetic factor, a family history. But what rides on that is the environmental factors, the lifestyle, which are the wellness tips we need to talk about. The lifestyle, who are those that are still smoking and taking alcohol? That is a risk factor to developing cancer. Any cancer, alcohol has been implicated, including red wine. For all the people that think red wine is not alcohol, any form of alcohol is no longer recommended. Alcohol is a carcinogen, a potential carcinogen. The same with red meat. So what are we trying to say? If we eat right, a proper diet and a healthy diet is what we call whole plant-based diet. Any plant-based diet, which is why the people that live longest are vegetarians. The people that are eating all the fruits and vegetables, clean, micronutrients, antioxidants that are killing all the cancer cells. All of us have potential cancer cells, but our defense mechanism is who determines who comes down with the cancer or who survives it. So if I build my immune system by taking the right diet, taking all the micronutrients, fruits and vegetables, 5 portions a day, then even when those cells are going to become cancerous, my immune system and the antioxidants and everything I've taken from this right diet from plants kill those cells, and then I'm able to survive. So the diet must be right. Let's stop eating a lot of red meat. In fact, processed meat has been found to be a class A carcinogen. That's a class A cancer-causing element. So all the shawarmas, all the corned beef and all the any processed meat that is not directly being cooked is a carcinogen, it's a cancer-causing thing. Let's stop eating them. So diet must be right. Exercise. Those are the wellness tips that prevent. And if you're doing all this, like some of us, I mean, I try to do my exercise regularly. You should have no fear because at least you're doing the right thing. So that should even make you go to know that likely I should not have it. But even if the worst case scenario, I will pick it on time instead of waiting for 6 months and it turns to stage 4. So your exercise must be right. 10,000 steps per day is recommended. American Heart Association. It's only when you do 10,000 that will say you are active. Anything below 10,000 is a sedentary lifestyle that is also a risk factor to developing cancer. The other thing is about social awareness and social connectedness. It's been seen that people that are isolated, we saw this in COVID, people that are not having a lot of company, social connectedness and social well-being actually helps. That's because when your emotional health is right, those negative hormones that make people depressed and cause a lot of bad things, that also potentiate cancer development, will not work in you. So what are we trying to say? Let's mingle more. Let's not be isolated. Let's talk. Let's have friends and hang out. When you do all that, I'm not saying go and hang out in a beer parlor or go and hang out in a go and hang out in a club. Quilox are not. No, that is not what we're saying. TGIF is okay. Anywhere that is healthy, that you're not getting secondhand smoke is okay. Secondhand smoke is more dangerous than the real smoker. So when you're hanging out in those clubs, you're actually at risk to your health. So your diet, exercise, lifestyle, and lastly is the sleep. Sleep. 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep is a recommendation. And you can plan it by just planning your time 10 to 6 and you're good. When those things are right, then you can be sure you are doing the wellness thing. And beyond that wellness, you are also not likely to develop cancer because you're just trying to live right. But please let us do it annually. Go for your screening if you have not done it today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jade. You probably had to stop drinking. So I have a question for Dr. Titi. How does, right, well, we're back to health insurance now. How does having a health insurance change or help a person's journey, a person's cancer journey, from the moment of testing to diagnosis and, to treatment process? How does health insurance help?
Thank you,
Does
Dr.
it
Jade,
take
for
off the
that.
entire load or does it reduce the load? Yeah.
Well, the truth is, it's not likely it will take off the entire load because cancer journey, just like Dr. Jade said, can be very unique. And another thing is that it can be very lonely. Sometimes because people do not understand what you're going through, you're also especially in this part of the world where you don't want people to label you and People do not share their journeys. They don't share what they're going through. They don't speak up on time. But thank God, I mean, this new age, we encourage people to speak up, and then social media also encourages people to speak up. But I mean, are you also talking to the right people? That's what health insurance does for you. It gives you support and structure. So we took it from screenings. You're entitled to screening once a year minimum. You walk into a diagnostic center or a screening center, you have your test done, you have your results. Somebody interprets for you. Even if it's a telemedicine consult, somebody interprets for you and you say, oh, right from the comfort of your house, you're able to say, I mean, this test doesn't look good. I want to speak to a doctor. And then you get that initial diagnosis. That doctor is able to refer you. And you also have the right to contact your HMO, your health insurance provider. You can send an email to the contact center, to the healthcare team to say, this was what was detected. This is my result. Who can I see? You can ask questions. But for people that already have existing hospitals they visit, even from your telemedicine consult, somebody refers you to a hospital. And one of the best things, so a diagnosis is then made. One of the best things about having a health insurance is that you have a wide range of providers, healthcare providers, experts that can actually manage you. One of the important things about detecting cancer early is also getting the right treatment, getting access. And as I advocate health insurance and access, health insurance is actually about healthcare access. You know, we know what has been going on in the news. Somebody went to a hospital in Abuja, could not get antivenom. And I was telling the people around me, I said, if it was a health insurance, if that person was a health insurance, as much as it is a very sensitive topic, but imagine that a person has access to health insurance. The person is able to call because, I mean, yeah, maybe snake bites are not as common as we see, but I mean, 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 times, we have received emails from hospitals here in Lagos and even other states that, oh, we have patients here for who were bitten by snakes and we want to get the antivenom. People are able to get access to these things. Then they might now say, oh, now the rates are a bit higher. And then they're able to get the multiple doses because you don't just get a dose and that's it. And that is one of the best things about having a health insurance. Your health insurance puts structure for you. They don't just say, oh, you have access to a list of hospitals. Where exactly should I be going? That person has now been diagnosed of breast cancer. Who should I be seeing? Should I be seeing just a general practitioner? At that point, it has graduated beyond a general practitioner. Who should I be seeing next? Yes, I need to see a breast surgeon. What's next should be done? You know, the health insurance provides you with access, a list of medical doctors that can manage you both from the hospital end and from the health insurance providers. We call them care coordinators. We call them case managers. Right from when the approvals are sent, a medical report is sent. Oh, I have, and the good thing is that doctors, the hospitals are also communicating with your providers because they know that beyond just paying for your care, they are also interested, or let me say we are also interested in the kind of management that patient gets. And trust me, your health insurance providers has doctors that come to check on you in the hospital. I remember when I joined AXA Mansard over 6 years ago, one of the first cases we had to, when I visited the hospital, was a cancer case. You know, the patient presented late, so it was very bad. But by the time we saw the patient, we knew that at that point it was a palliative care. But we were doing our best to say, how are you feeling? Are you in pain? What more can? So at that point, the patient wasn't just lonely. The truth is that the relatives of the patients were very happy that at least they could see somebody to come check on the patients. And that's one of the best things about having a health insurance. You are directed to the right place. And because usually under health insurance, cancer care can be very wide. You know, sometimes you're not sure of how much a coverage will be. So we're also looking at how much does this person have? Where is the best place this person can access care and also maximize the limits or the resources under the health insurance for this particular care? This person needs chemotherapy. Where can we send this person? Let's say the person has a limit of, say, 5 billion naira. You don't want to send the person to a hospital where just one chemo will exhaust that limit. So you want to send to maybe a Youth Cancer Center, and we're not just leaving you alone. We are checking with the hospital. This person has been there, how many sessions, how much will it cost? We're paying the hospital, and we are checking on you. After chemo, what next does the person require? Cancer care also requires a multidisciplinary approach. So you're not just seeing a surgeon. Sometimes you need to see a therapist. You want to speak to a dietitian. What should I be eating? You want to speak to, so the entire health insurance plan gives you that support and gives you that structure. So you're not feeling lonely. You know that you're surrounded with with experts. And you can also seek for second opinion. Oh, I went to this hospital, I did not get the best of care. Where else can I go to? Then they're directing you to the right place. So if you're here on this this call or at this webinar and you have not made up your mind, you don't have a health insurance, the best thing you can do for yourself is to enroll yourself, and not just on any plan, with AXA Mansard.
All right.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. We say a big thank you to all of our panelists. This was a wonderful session for me, and I believe that we all enjoyed ourselves. So now we're going to go straight into the Q&A session. The Q&A box is open. Some people have dropped their questions already, so we're going to start now. While we're at that, there's a survey link in the chat box. Please, let's take a few seconds out to fill that. All right. So I think the first question I have here is from Olive Adjo. I'm sorry, Olive, I can't pronounce your surname. So I'll just say Olive. What about false positives and false negatives? I've heard of cases where patients, I think that would be for Dr. Oladimi. Well, everybody can answer. I've heard of cases where patients have been wrongly diagnosed and they died treating what they never had in the first place. So I think I'd like for Dr. Oladimi to take this one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
For the question. So, well, yes. So there are cases where you have false positive and false negative. However, most of the cancer screenings, they are made in such a way that the likelihood of your test. Okay, so I don't want to use the word specificity. I'm very principle of the word using specificity and sensitivity. Any screening test would always have a high specificity and sensitivity. So they want you to be sure this patient has it. But however, there are other tests to confirm that the patient has this cancer. Now, for instance, someone does a stool test to check for colorectal cancer, and they say the stool test is positive. Most often, you want to do a colonoscopy to be sure, okay, this stool, what's making this person have blood in their stool? And that when you do a colonoscopy, you can obviously see what the problem is. Also, it's very important that people should go to people that are sure they know what they are doing, because I won't want to blame whatever happened to, I don't know the circumstances surrounding the patient that you said died from procedure, but it can happen to anyone. Anybody can die from any procedure, even from a basic medical care check. Something can happen, can go on the way. But it's also very important to go to places that you are sure that you are getting the best care from a specialist that's been doing it over time. Just don't go to, some will call themselves specialists, but they're not really specialists. You have to be sure of where you're going to. I'm not trying to say that this person is actually not a specialist that did the procedure, but it can happen to anyone. But these are I'm sure there are very minimal people that happen to that maybe went for a procedure and something happened. But so the screenings that we normally have, like for instance, most of the screenings for cancer, they are very sensitive and they are very specific. So meaning that if they are saying that you have this cancer, then you may have to do some other tests to confirm that you have this cancer. And if you have the cancer, you may have to go for treatment and they would have to get the problem. But that shouldn't make you say, because this person died from this problem, that you don't want to check yourself, because by the time you are checking and it's late, then you're already reducing your chances of survival from that problem. So I wouldn't say that, yes, it can happen that a patient would go, and in fact, there are some of the cancers that we test they used to do for cancer screening that they had to remove because they realized that the risk was more than the benefit. So they had to stop doing them. So I'm not saying that this cannot happen, but what we should have in mind that the earlier you're detected, And the earlier the better your survival chances, and that's what we should have at the back of our mind. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Olive, I hope that answers your question. Dr. Jari spoke about HPV vaccine, so I'm just going to throw this one to her. This is from Chinwe. If someone has taken HPV vaccine, is the person still expected to do a pap smear?
Yes. So thank you for that question. HPV vaccine is human papilloma virus vaccine. Human papilloma virus is a causative agent for cervical cancer. When we take it, just like any vaccine, it stimulates production of antibodies in our system. Those antibodies fight any HPV virus that may enter us through sexual contact. So what happens? Somebody is exposed to a partner that has, before I forget, men are also recommended, young boys too, should be given the vaccine. But because of population and our own problem with poverty, it's only girls who are given, because it's the guys that spread it to the girls most times when in a straight relationship, basically. So I'm just saying that. So that question goes to people that are exposed in a long time. So if you are unfortunately married to someone that has an HPV and you don't know, the guy never tested, does not know what he's carrying, and you are in a monogamous or even any form of relationship with that person, constantly exposed to sex, that virus is constantly in your system, as it were. But because you've taken that vaccine, those antibodies hopefully will mop it out. But for whatever reason, if your immune system goes down, that can come from stress, anxiety, and even some infection like HIV. Once your immune system goes down, that HPV vaccine that your body was taking care of can now become overwhelming and begin to change the nature of your cervix, leading to a cervical cancer. So basically, HPV vaccine helps us to curtail any exposure to that virus. But because we can't state how life would progress, and life happens, if for any reason our immune system drops or we have an immunosuppression of any kind, there can be an overwhelming viremia where the virus multiplies, and before you know it, a cervical cancer can develop. That is why every woman should still have a pap smear every 2 to 3 years. I hope I answered the question. You are going to be safer with antibodies and with clearing it, but that you will not develop cervical cancer is a multiple question with related things. It's not just a straight jacket. So please still have your annual screening as recommended.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question from James. I'm just going to throw the remaining questions out there. Can prolonged consumption of microwave foods in plastic containers result in cancer? So, who would like to answer the question? Or should I pick? Oh yeah, Dr. Titi. Can prolonged consumption of microwave foods in plastic containers result in cancer?
Well, so I know that new studies have come up, and then they say that plastics actually release toxins. So everyone is encouraged, even though I know I'm culpable too, everyone is encouraged to use glasswares. Especially when you see some of those plastics are already even melting. So you're even using melting. There are actually some plastics that are not even microwave friendly. So when you check the back of those, whether glasswares, there are some ceramics now, let me not say glasswares, and some plastics that are not microwave friendly that should not even be used at all. But I know new studies, and I also read about it, that a lot of these plastics release toxins into the food, especially when you're microwaving even beyond certain certain time limits. So everyone is truly encouraged to use glasswares, which are more healthy.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question here is from Emmanuel, and it says, does PSA actually detect prostate cancer? I thought it was to monitor the enlargement of the prostate. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Doc.
So are you talking? Can I talk?
Yes.
Go
ahead.
please.
Okay. So yes. So PSA is a test. It's not really about enlargement. It's just to know if your prostate is diseased. Even if you have an infection of your prostate, your PSA can be elevated. So there are other tests. That's why, like I said, if you're screening, that's the minimum test you can do. You do a PSA. You always check if the PSA is enlarged, if there's a disease of your prostate. If you have an infection, the PSA can be elevated. If you have a enlargement of a prostate, your PSA can be elevated. Even if you have a prostate cancer, your PSA can be elevated. But there are other tests we do after the PSA. If they see the elevation in your PSA, there are other tests they want to do. They want to do a scan. They may want to do an MRI for you. They may want to do a biopsy for you. There are other tests you have to do. But PSA is not necessarily an enlargement, but it's the minimum test you can do to screen for cancer. Because we expect that if there's a cancer in the prostate, we expect that the PSA will be elevated to an extent. So that's, I hope I have answered the question by answering that.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to throw this one to Dr. Jadi. It's from OINE. So they want you to help clarify this myth. So there's a common myth that pap smear is only limited to ladies who have been sexually active. Is that true? Or is every lady, whether sexually active or not, above a certain age, that must have pap smear?
Okay, so that will take us to understand what a pap smear is. A pap smear is like, we have a brush or a spatula that is used to scrape the cervix, and the cervix is the opening of the womb. Every woman has a womb or uterus. So they will insert it to scrape that cervix, which is the opening of the womb, and put it on a slide to look at the kind of cells that are there. That is how we do a pap smear, to see as the nature of those cells in that cervix, has it changed? Are they still normal cells, or have they become cancerous? Now, what leads to cervical cancer? I just told us HPV virus, human papilloma virus, is a causative agent. How is it spread? Sexual intercourse. Now, these days of Gen Zs and different sexual acts, I don't want to go into all that detail, but we all know that sometimes oral sex, people are doing all sorts. So sometimes people have heard of even a virgin that got pregnant. I mean, mysterious things happen these days. So that somebody is not sexually active by penetration, but they've had exposure to a semen that, or a man that has that virus, is also a risk, if you get what I mean. So you have not had sex, but you've done all the other things, and you know, all sorts of stuff, and that virus somehow has penetrated somewhere. You're exposed because, you know, it can swim and get to that cervix. So because of the thin line between different sexual acts that we have these days, exposure is higher. And that means any form of sexual intimacy puts you at a risk once that person is a potential HPV carrier, and you can be exposed. So please, every woman, whether you're even sexually active or not, so far you've had some form of intimacy and co, please do your screening, and of course, let it remain negative. But please, 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 let's screen annually. Thank you. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you so much. I think this one will be for Dr. Titi. Are all hospitals able to do cancer screenings, or are we advised to go to cancer screening centers? Because a lot of people think cancer screening centers are for people who already have cancer.
Okay, so before I answer that, I just wanted to add to what Dr. Jadi said. So
Okay.
For that person that has asked about having a pap smear, that's why running HPV tests is also good, HPV testing. So aside the fact, I mean, if you have been exposed in any way, for instance, oral sex, you're not going to take a sample from the mouth. But once you have, if that person has contracted HPV virus, that's human papilloma virus, a test, HPV testing, will actually detect it. So it's important to also balance it up. So you can do both. Are all hospitals able to do cancer screenings? No, because there are different levels of hospitals. There are clinics, there are just general, I mean, we have so many levels of care. The primary healthcare, I mean, well, primary healthcare centers actually should be able to, they are actually designed to be able to even run the simple pap smear. But a lot of times, most of the tests we've actually mentioned, or some of the tests we've mentioned, are actually blood tests. So some of them will actually take the samples, but they will send them to diagnostic partners. But for the other radiological investigations, not a lot of hospitals are able to set radiological equipment in. So diagnostic centers would then be the best bet. You know, they have the mammogram machines, the ultrasound scan, the MRIs if needed, CT scan. We talked about a prostate scan, a prostate MRI. So most of the diagnostic centers, I won't say just the small laboratories that do blood work, but most of the diagnostic centers are able to run this test. But you will definitely need to have a consultation with a doctor to be able to interpret the reports or the results that you're given. But of course, if you're with AXA Mansard, you will be directed to designated centers. And you will also have access to doctors that can review the reports with you. Some cancer centers do not even have access to run this test in-house, but they will direct you to the right places. And cancer centers are not for those that have cancers. They run screenings, they are screening centers, and then they do holistic cancer management in such centers.
Sorry, let me just add to that, Joseph, because a lot of quackery is in Nigeria, and we know there's poor regulation, which is why I'm seeing a lot of people that say they said, I had cancer, I didn't have cancer. Where did they make the diagnosis? What tests did they do? So let's be careful. And the other thing, like Olajimeji has said, is that nobody does a cancer treatment or a definitive diagnosis without confirming, more like a second opinion or doing additional tests to confirm, this is a prostate PSA test 4 to 11 is normal. By the time it's getting to 15, it's showing it's high. But we're going to do a scan. We're going to do an MRI. We're even going to do additional tests, and some people will still do a digital rectal to see the stage of the prostate. So I'm just saying nobody does a one-off test to make a diagnosis of a lifetime like cancer. People go for second opinion, and people go to qualified centers. That's why, like Titi has said, you need to partner with AXA. All the providers in Nigeria that are good quality are in our network, over 2,000 hospitals, which she manages. And you can be sure we'll direct you to the right place. People are going to wrong places that have no business treating cancer or making a diagnosis, and they're giving them false diagnosis. Join AXA today and you'll be in the right place to take care of your health. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Joseph, if we still have time, I would like to cite an example, or do we still have more questions?
We have about 5 minutes. We have 2 more questions.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
A few more minutes. So there are just 2 more questions. I have one from Queenet here. It says, are there any risks or side effects from cancer screenings? Are there any risks or side effects from cancer screenings?
Maladimeji told us mammogram. I do my annual mammogram or every 2 years actually. But sometimes some guidelines will say it's good to do it annually. So why am I saying this? And this issue of when you enter a plane to America or to UK, 6 hours, 12 hours, the kind of radiation that you're exposed to in those planes is actually more than 10 times. That's what they tell me. For the longer the flight, the more. So this small radiation from mammogram that people are afraid of, they say the radiation risk is there. But you're flying to Atlanta, every year like me. You're going to Houston, you're going to UK. That exposure of the radiation is actually 10 times more, which puts everyone at a higher risk. So what are we trying to say? It's still important that we know the right thing and we do it and avoid unnecessary myths that discourage people. Every test has its risks and benefits. Now, mammogram is not a contraindication if you are normal and if you don't have other pre-existing condition. The same with PSA. These are even blood works. The same with a scan, a breast scan. So what am I trying to say? Virtually most of the tests are non-invasive and they're actually safe. The ones that are invasive, which is why I wanted to do that colonoscopy last year, and I did it. They will give you painkillers. Colonoscopy is the one they will check your rectum and they will pass a probe, like a scope, into your anus. But I didn't even feel anything because they gave me some sedative kind of thing. And then I didn't feel anything. So what am I trying to say? Even the ones that are invasive, like a colonoscopy, we manage it and the risk is minimal if you go to the right place. Like I told us, at One Health Medical Center, we have a professor from Babcock University that does it. But God forbid you go and meet a quack, a male nurse from somewhere, and they'll come and scope and go and pierce the intestine. That is what happens when you go to the wrong places. So please, when you go to the right place, the risk is minimal, but generally they are safe because most of the time they are non-invasive. Non-invasive means they are not puncturing or doing anything. They're just collecting your sample, your stool, your urine, or looking at a scan or an imaging. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The final question for now. I know we've spoken about this, but I think it needs to be reiterated. What are the early warning signs of cancer? What are the most common early warning signs of cancer, generally speaking? I think I want Dr. Oladimeji to take this one.
Thank you very much. Well, the common warning signs, tiredness, weak, they are actually signs that even if you're sick, just have malaria, it could actually be cancer. So I don't want to start telling people that these are the common early signs, but let me just talk about the common early signs: weight loss, weakness, tiredness. But depending on the organ affected, it would actually depend on the symptoms you would have. So if you have, for example, if someone has colon cancer, patient may have change in bowel habits. Someone that is having moving bowel maybe once a day, is now moving bowel maybe every 3 days. There's a change in his bowel habits. In essence, patient will start having abdominal pain, abdominal swelling, will start having weight loss, will have loss of appetite. So it's peculiar to depending on the cancer. That's why it's always important that we should screen, we should get checked even without any symptoms. Because when you already have symptoms, that means the cancer has actually spread most times. In most cases, when you have symptoms, the cancer has actually gone far. So it's important that we all get ourselves checked and get screened as early as possible, depending on your age, depending on your risk factors. Other symptoms, like I said, weight loss, some people bleed, some people have anemia. There are so many things. But the funny thing is that some of the symptoms they have may be just an infection, but not actually be cancer. So I wouldn't want to encourage people to wait for signs or symptoms before they go to the hospital. What you should just have a doctor when you should get screened, get checked before you have any symptoms. That's what is actually the best. Prevention is always better than cure. I'm sure everybody knows that. Survival rate of cancer was at least in the 90s was about 50%. Now the survival rate has increased to 70, and that's because people are checking themselves early now. They already know about early screening is very important to save your life. So always get yourself screened and get checked so that you can, the survival rate is increased, your chances of you surviving from that cancer is also increased. So I wouldn't encourage anybody to wait for symptoms or signs before they get themselves checked. But like I said, all these signs, the symptoms can be like malaria, and you think it's malaria, but you know it's cancer you actually have. So the most important thing is that you should get checked before you have symptoms. That's what I would have to say. That's what I would have to say on this short note. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So, last question. Can we refer to lupus as a cancerous sickness? I actually don't know what that is. LUPUS. Can we refer to lupus as a cancerous sickness? So,
No, it's not. Lupus, I
No,
think
it's
the
not.
person is talking about SLE. It's an
Yeah,
autoimmune
SLE.
disease. It's not.
It's an
Yes.
autoimmune.
please, can you help us clarify? Because I don't even know what that is.
That's what most like the person is saying.
So lupus is an autoimmune disorder. It's not cancerous.
Okay.
It's some form of disease where the body is sort of fighting against its own self, but it's not cancer. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just before we close, thank you so much, everyone, thank you to our panelists. Thank you for joining. Thank you for asking. Thank you for answering. Before we close, I think I'll just let Dr. Titi go. I think she had some comments to make there, but we're time conscious. So I don't know if you still want to,
Oh, well, I was just going to cite an example of someone I know. I mean, we've managed quite a number of cancer cases. And that's also to buttress the fact that the diagnosis of cancer is not made after just one investigation or after one whether screening test. Usually there are confirmatory tests to make such diagnosis. And that's why before you even ever tell someone this is cancer, I mean, such a doctor to have to, because you know how people will take the information. Usually it starts from a small test. I know someone, all she did, and then like Dr. Oladimeji said, the symptoms are not non-specific, depending on the type of cancer. This person had a GI cancer, that's a gastrointestinal cancer. It was actually cancer of the stomach. And the diagnosis started with, all the person had was, a feeling of something in her stomach. And then she had a scan. It was an abdominal ultrasound scan. Thank God she did the scan at a very good center. Then from there, because I knew this person, so I mean, the whoever that radiographer was able to say, this is likely to be a tumor. or no, so it wasn't tumor. It just diagnosed something, that there was something blocking the head of the stomach, and then she then had to have a CT scan done. The CT scan also showed there was something, but it was non-specific until she had an upper GI. In fact, she had upper GI and lower GI endoscopy done, and they were then able to take a sample of the tumor, and then of course the sent for histology, and then that came out cancerous. So you can see there were 3 different tests done. She had to then do surgery. After surgery, the tumor was also sent for histology, and the type of cancer that came out following after the surgery was even different from the type of cancer, because there are also types of, so for instance, you say breast cancer, there are different types of breast cancer. There's the invasive ductal. There are some that are very drastic that, so you don't just run one test. And that's why if you get a diagnosis, a likely diagnosis of cancer, just know it's still likely. It's not a death sentence. You don't have to panic. The next thing to do is discuss with a doctor. That is, have another consultation, and let the person now begin to guide you. Okay, can we carry out this next test? Can we carry out this next test? Until all of your test results come out, you are not confirmed to have cancer. A lot of times, I know a young lady too, not married, under 30 years, who was also diagnosed with breast cancer, but it was detected early. And she's fine. In fact, she had the surgery, a lumpectomy done. It was sent to the lab. She started her chemo. So cancer is not a death sentence. That's one important thing I need to say. I also saw in the chat, somebody asked if that the person currently is on a corporate plan, and he or she is saying that because it was our organization or his organization that led him to AXA Mansard. After he leaves the organization, can he buy AXA Mansard's plan? Yes, you can. I saw a response. Somebody has responded to you that you can reach out to any of our sales agents. You can also go to our website. We have a website, www.axamansard.com. You will see the different plans we have. You can enroll for your health plan there. You can buy a plan directly from that website. We also have a digital app. And then of course you can send emails to us and just request that you want to buy a plan. Somebody will contact you immediately. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Titi. As we're rounding off, right, I want to throw this question, and I'm just going to pick you. I want 3 of you to answer this question, and 1 minute each, right? So I'm going to pick as they're appearing on my screen. So Dr. Ladimeji first, Dr. Jadi, and Dr. Titi. Before we close, right, if all the people on this webinar and those who are going to listen to the recording after would take one thing or should take one thing home, right, what would it be? What should be the key takeaway from this webinar to everyone listening and to those who would listen after? So Dr. Lajmedi will go first, please.
Thank you. So I think what I would say is simple. Early screening. Screen yourself as early as possible. We all know that early screenings increases your survival rate, increases your treatment options, and increases your quality of life. So it is important you get screened as early as possible. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Jadi, please.
Yes, I'm going to add this to what I wanted to add. Every woman must know how to do a self-breast examination. Go to YouTube, all the ways to do it are there. Every woman, either at the beginning of your period or when the period ends, and even if you're menopausal, every particular early month or late end of the month, you must check your breast with the 6 quadrant, checking it. Self-breast examination, annual breast examination, either by breast scan or mammogram, and a clinical breast examination by clinician. That's because breast cancer is still the #1 cancer in women. For cervical cancer, any change in your discharge, women have normal discharge and abnormal discharge. Once you start getting an abnormal discharge, foul smelling, bloody, sometimes some people begin to have what they call bleeding after intercourse, and then pain after intercourse, dyspareunia, and many of these abnormalities. Once you see any change from the normal, which is actually a kind of general thing, anything you change, anyone that used to have go to toilets once a day, all of a sudden you are no longer going, you are now constipated, that is a warning sign. Once there's a change from the normal, that is actually a sign that may be a sign of a cancer developing. That's actually common with stomach cancer. So please, any change from the normal, you must see your doctor. The last one is for the men, the prostate cancer. Once you begin to feel anything abnormal too, sometimes people begin to have change in their urinary pattern. Somebody that was urinating normally, because that prostate is already getting constricted, they start having what we call fucking of urine. The urine is splitting and going into different direction. They begin to even have painful urination, or the urine is no longer dropping well. Once you begin to have any issue with your external organ and thing, please see your doctor. Those may be early warning signs. And even when things are not normal, I mean, I can't forget a case of one of the people that we also lost in our church that had an advanced prostate cancer, and he never had any prostate symptoms. All he had was bone pain, and it was an MRI that brought it out. Now, that was advanced. If the man had been screening annually, they would have picked up a PSA. He never did screening. So please, annual screening is compulsory. AXA will take care of you. Join us today, and you can have your wellness screening as part of the package. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Titi. Dr. Titi, you're muted though.
You're muted.
So I'll say cancer is not a death sentence. Get a good health insurance plan to get access to good and quality healthcare, because that can make the difference between whether you survive or whether you do not. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much once again. Before we go, please fill the survey form. There's a survey form in the chat box. You can just scroll through and you'll find it. Please fill the survey. Would like to know what you learned from the webinar, how much you enjoyed the webinar, and how impactful it was. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking your time out to join us. We know everybody is busy. So thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Ladimeji. Thank you, Dr. Jadi. And thank you, Dr. Titi. This was a wonderful session. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure the people here also learned so much. So please, can we give them a round of applause? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. All right, have a wonderful rest of your day, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone.